Welcome back, everybody. Alana and I met her. Actually, she was a yoga instructor at the place that I go to here in Costa Rica. She lives like literally 10 minutes down the street from me. And when I first got into her class, I say this actually in the podcast, I was just like, I love this girl. And I don't say girl as in like young girl. I mean, I just say it as an expression and just such a beautiful, beautiful being. So in this podcast episode, we dive into her transition in spirituality, the focus of duality right now and owning all the dimensions to you. We talk about her journey through ballet and structure and her religious upbringing and how she shifted into that and the beauty of being still and quiet in the world and how that shows up for us in our everyday lives. And we do dive into a lot of spiritual conversation and about being a human in the spiritual dynamics and some of the really cool work she's doing in the world today and how she's gotten to this point to be able to embrace all that work. And I'm just so grateful that I get to meet humans like this in real life in this experience that I'm in here in Costa Rica and to be able to connect deeply into this. And it's almost like the mission of some of the people coming together are to find each other. And I'm just grateful that I got to find her. I'm just grateful that I get to experience this and that I get to serve her energy to you today. So wherever you take a nugget from, whatever this feels like for you to step into the space of, I'm just going to highly encourage you to take an action, to release an infrastructure, to let go of something, whatever you're being called to through this experience as you move through this podcast. Because I can guarantee you, if you are here right now, about to listen to this, there's something in this for you. And you've been drawn to this exact podcast for a reason. And I'm just so grateful that you are here. So without further ado, okay, I should hit record like 20 minutes ago. Okay, I just want to make sure I say that out loud to all the listeners because Alana was going off about some amazing cool shit, and I cannot wait to like serve into that. And she probably won't be able to say it exactly as she said it. It's totally okay. But I'm so grateful that we get to do this. We literally live 10 minutes apart, probably, but I'm like, let's just pop on a Zoom because I'm not like equipped with like North American standards over here to like record shit in person. But welcome, Light Warriors Unleashed podcast. So happy to have you.
Thanks, babe. I'm so happy to be here. Yeah, it is funny when we're like setting up the questions, then you dive into the like good stuff. They're like, okay, let's let them in.
I'm like, let's hit fucking record. Oh my God. So I met you at yoga. You are one of the yoga teachers that teaches at the place that I go. And when I first did one of your classes, I was like, I really like this girl, a woman, like spirit goddess. I said that to Laura and I was like, she's like, yeah, isn't she amazing? I was like, she's so fucking amazing. I just really love her. And that's how my fangirl moment started happening in the space of time for this relationship to come about where I'm like, do you want to be on my podcast? Because I think you got so much to say and I just like want to tap into that. And you're like, yeah. So this is how we got here. So I'd love to just like bring us back to what we were chatting about your spiritual journey. And I'd just love for you to talk wherever you want to go with that. And then we'll be led to wherever we need to be because I think there's so much power there.
Beautiful. Thank you for the introduction and the love. I feel the same when you came into class. I'm like, ooh, I'm vibing with this one. So thank you. And same sister.
Love it. Thank you.
Yeah, spiritual path. So I was raised, we're gonna go back, girl. I was raised Christian Catholic in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Went to church every Sunday, did the communion, did the confession, did the la 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 la. Went to a private Catholic.
He's laughing over here. I'm like, oh, this is gonna get good. I know.
Oh boy, it's gonna get good.
Yes.
Yeah, Christian girl gone wild now. God. So oh man, let's take the jungle. Oh boy, sorry, it's probably not PC. I respect religion, I do, and I think that I claim that I'm now spiritual versus religious. We can go into why I stopped following and being an active participant in the religion that I was raised. But I think that kind of rule and system and following made me want to rebel. Like there was something about it. And this is only coming together now, but something about being Christian as well as a ballerina and a dancer. So I've been a professional dancer for most of my life. That was my journey before yoga. And the rules. Like we had, you know, you have to be perfect, you have to do your thing, you have to hold the position. Like that was the goal. So maybe that's like also why Christianity kind of triggers me to this day, because of this whole God complex. Anyways, so
It's all perfect. I love this.
I'm
I'm
gonna
like,
do
that
like
makes so much
this
sense.
because yeah,
Yeah.
I want to like hook my story. Sometimes I go on these little tangents, but
I love tangents. They're all perfect. I know someone needed to hear it, so we're good.
someone need to hear it. So yeah, dance my whole life. That was a joy. I really do feel like movement was my first language. Something that not a lot of people know about me is I used to be afraid of talking to people, like terrified. Anytime I had to give a presentation, I'd turn bright red, I'd have a panic attack, I'd usually start crying or have to look away. But something about, I have chills as I'm saying this, but something about dancing, I didn't have to speak, but I could be seen. And so this dives into even like another core wound of mine is like I'm so desperate, like desperate to be seen, but terrified to be seen at the same time. And I think a lot of us have this duality of like, oh, pick me, choose me, see me. And then you get in, you're like, I'm not worthy. I don't know. Ooh, ooh. And it's just
The cycle
oh,
continues. You know? Yeah.
continues. So yeah, dance, perfection, all of that thing, movement is my language, led me to college and then New York City, where I spent 4 years professionally dancing, studying at the Alvin Ailey School. So my life was dance, dance, dance. And after high school, my religious or spiritual background kind of fizzled out and I just dedicated to dance. It's all I could see, breathe, do. It was just dance, dance, dance. And then the injuries started happening, and I kept getting dislocated shoulders, which is something I'm dealing with still to this day, knee stuff, pelvis stuff. And one of my physical therapists was like, girl, try yoga. And I had this preconceived idea about yogis that I don't know if I've shared this in class that you've been in,
No.
that like Kundalini-esque. Like basically we all have white turbans and you have to be in white and you meditate and you can't do anything and you have to abstain from all pleasures. And so I had this idea of what yoga was. And the flexibility thing. I'm like, I'm a dancer. I could throw my foot behind my head. Like, I don't need this stretching. Totally like, you know, young 20-year-old, like, I'm better than yoga. So I finally go to yoga.
Yeah.
And it's in New York City at this donation-based studio, and it's packed, like 80 mats in there, brick, like an old brick and mortar. They're playing loud music, eclectic group of people. They all seem, I don't know what anyone's actually going through, but it felt like a lot of joy and it felt like a family and coming together. And it was almost intimidating to me because I think I got so used to just following direction. Like I didn't really know how to fill my space of having fun or connecting anymore. I was just like full-time student. I'm going to learn, I'm going to execute, and that's what happens for me in my life.
Yeah.
And so to be around this warmth and celebration of life, it was really interesting because I knew how to control my body, but I didn't know how to enjoy my body. So I remember being in that room and feeling super self-conscious of like, oh, I have a feeling they're going to ask something more of me, and I'm not sure what's going to be on the other side of these questions. And so there was just kind of this like moment with spirit, I think now back to it of like, all right, like this is the invitation. I'm going to sit and be in it. And here I am, what, almost 9 years later. That practice gave me my voice. It gave me a blank page. It gave me the gift of awareness. It gives me the invitation to slow down, even though I don't freaking listen mostly. But it also was like the hand out to take accountability for my life. And I say that because the asana, what I was drawn to in the beginning, which is the physical practice, that's what a lot of people dabble their toes in. And that's what they want to come in and kind of check this out and maybe get a workout, at least in the West, because it's about, you know, the Lulu and the this and the that. So
Lulu.
during my 500-hour teaching training,
I just thinking about my
yeah,
like experience with yoga at first and how like that was so true. It was
how was
like,
your first yoga experience?
oh my gosh. Okay, like I'm an athlete by nature. So I would always be pushing boundaries. I used to teach aerobics. I used to literally push, weight train, physical training. Like I was literally like rock solid in muscle, and yoga was the fluffy flu thing that you're like, whatever, like this isn't a workout. Like this is like a da 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 da. And like my first yoga class I ever took was at the gym that I used to teach at. And it would be one of those things like, this is fucking hard. Like, how like this body move? Like, because I never really like we stretched for like 3 minutes after class, and like that was all the stretching I used to do because I was like we don't stretch. Like, look at the muscle. Like that's how it works, right? So like just remembering the dismantling of the infrastructure of the thought process, through that experience of like what the body is actually desiring and the call to the body. Like I don't think I'm like I am now because I have awareness and because I practice that, but back then I was never present in my body. It was more so like I can lift this weight, and it was all the show of the weight you're lifting instead of the actual connection into the root of the body, where yoga forces us, quote unquote, into that experience to actually go, wow, I'm really holding a lot of energy in my hips. Why is that? And then you can drop into I fly. I sometimes I'm in yoga. Like if you actually watch me, you'll be like, she is out of her body. Like I don't even know where the fuck she is. Like I'm gone, and I'm trying to get present all the time into the infrastructure to be connected that way. So it dismantled some of the like athletic go 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 energy, but I didn't understand it for years. Like that was probably 20 years ago that I first came into that awareness, and then I thought I could teach it. So I was like, I could teach yoga. So I'd be like, you could teach yoga, because at the time there wasn't a lot of like yoga teacher training in Canada where I was. Like you didn't hear about it a lot. People just said, yeah, I could teach it. And so I started teaching some yoga stuff. I'm like, yeah. Now I'm like, I don't. Yeah. Thankfully, I didn't like. I wasn't out that much integrity then, but now I'm like, no, like, there's no way I could hold it. But yeah, that's my experience with it. It's kind of fun.
Hear you. I thank you for sharing that. And I really do resonate with like, especially as athletes, we're used to treating our body as something that's outside of ourselves. And that was a huge reclamation for me in my practice of even up to 2 years ago. I think it was Sean Corn who I went on one of her retreats, and she read me like a book with love, but she's like, oh, like the perfectionism and all that stuff you had in dance, like it's still here in your yoga practice. Like I didn't just because I shifted careers doesn't mean my shit didn't come with me. And I was like, that was a huge mirror of like, oh damn. And I think of my body, I mean, if people sense me as an embodied person, which is beautiful because I do know my body well, but that connection, like you're saying, wasn't there for me. I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw these shapes and do these things and do that, but I couldn't feel what that was like in my body. I've been so in here to try to like ninja my way to get it right or get it perfect that I was like not enjoying what it means to feel alive and have the sensations of what our body's like in poses and being present. Like presence is terrifying. No fucking wonder Shavasana, like, yeah, I mean, I love that most of us now that have these wellness practices, like we can sit back and relax and be in it. But to someone who doesn't know how to be with themselves, that is terrifying. Take 5 minutes, close your eyes, and see what happens. Yeah. And so when I had my first Shavasana experiences, I had a lot of that traumatic, like, well, what do I do? Like, I don't know how to be with myself. What does this mean? And so that was kind of the hunger that I also felt to, oh, like, I'm not this mind, I'm not this body. What's there? What can I do with this? How can I study what's actually happening? How do I get these to unite? And it was through presence, like you're saying, of studying. Like 500-hour yoga teacher training was super helpful, but also my work now, I'm doing these coaching calls and diving more into the conscious work, subconscious work, and getting to our belief systems and doing somatic releases, because my mission, I believe, here is to help others suffer less. Like I know what it's like to be depressed and want to take your life and have eating disorders, and like I have a lot of pain, like we all do, and we don't really talk about it. Not that there's a fine line too, right? I'm not going to get online and be like, then woe is me, wah, because we've all been there, and there's like a lot bigger problems happening in the world. And also we got to start talking about it. We got to start making like something about not bypassing what's happening in the world. And I think for me as a spiritual teacher, I like to consider that I'm a bridge of making the spiritual world real and raw and something that everyone can connect to, not just certain kinds of people or advanced yogis. I want yoga to be for everyone, so that we can find safety in who we are. And I don't think we can heal without feeling safe. And for me, that's what the biggest thing that the practice provided is I eventually learned how to be safe in my body, in my mind, learned that like the heart has its own language, its own vibrancy, its own frequency that's everything, that's eternal.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people, maybe, yes, a lot of people do know that. A lot of people don't know that.
Yes.
And so I believe that I'm here to curate experiences and give tools that are spiritually bite-sized. So that, people are curious, you're like, oh, I don't know about this yoga stuff. It's like, it starts with the breath. Breathe deeper, see what can change. How does your body feel? Tune into your senses. So for me right now, like that kind of somatic bringing ourselves into the body is interesting to me. But it's just vast, and there's so much there, and there's so much that we don't talk about. And I think that when we have mindful practices, we're able to access these parts of ourselves that actually make a difference. We can sit and listen to everyone and study with Ram Dass and we can do all the right things, but it's no one's choice but ours until we get sick of our own shit to make a different choice.
And like, this is, it's super powerful. Like I talk a lot about stillness, and I think most of us, especially being born in North America, were never taught this. Like, we didn't experience it a lot. We were always on the go, right? We get up in the morning, have breakfast, go to school, then we get picked up at school, go to extracurricular activities, do all the things, then finish our homework, maybe have time to play with our friends if that was an experience we were in, and then go to bed and do it all over again the next day. And it's like we were always going. And I knew this to be true a few years ago, and I was practicing it a few years ago, and a lot of my own spiritual awakening, expansion, movement happened when I really integrated it, but I didn't feel and understand what it actually was until I got here to Costa Rica like a year ago, and actually understood and watched and had examples. Like, you watch the people that live here and grow up here, it's like they can root in and be in their life. And you look at it from the eye of going, oh my God, they have so much to teach us. And yet from a North American prissy kind of hoity-toity energy coming down to Costa Rica in my, North American clothing and all the shit that I brought from North America, thinking what was important in life. It's like sometimes we wear that veil of like, we think we know it all, when the teachers from the land and like the nature here and the beauty of the rivers and the waterfalls, like they whisper to who we are. And if we allow ourselves to actually, you don't have to come to Costa Rica to do this, just saying out loud. But for me, I needed to be like,
helps.
You do. Yeah. Completely pulled out of an environment that I didn't know anything of. I never even been here when I moved here. Most people think I'm crazy. They're like, you never even been there? I was like, no, I literally moved without even coming here. Like, I had never even been in this country before, but the call of my heart was driving me to come. And everything I do is an intuitive flow. So I trusted at the beginning of 2022, when it's like, you're moving to Costa Rica, and it dropped in that that's where I was supposed to be. And I understand way more now. And I know she has so much still to teach me, but it's like that stillness and connection within ourselves it's the beginning yet not, but it's like one of those key dynamics. And I love that you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How's it feel for you? Because obviously if you're teaching that and you're bringing it forth in some of the coaching you're doing, and even in the practices, and probably I'm going to make up in the retreats that you're holding here too, this is probably a practice you're bringing back into an awareness. I'd love to just hear your thoughts on the power of it even.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that share of stillness and nature in Costa Rica. And that's it. Like, that's God. I mean, this place I've had a very tumultuous relationship with that 3-letter word, but it's all of us. It's in everything. And I think that anytime I like feel the ocean now, and I even sense my body like soften and my voice slow down, because it's the truth. I was yesterday climbing a waterfall, sitting with a friend, and I was looking up, and I've had some tears of joy recently, which feels so freaking good. Like, God, I've had countless tears of pain, but this was like a really juicy, like, just relief, and how good that feels to feel like you're part of everything. There's something about being small, right? So I'm thinking like if I'm on a surfboard, if I'm like lost in a jungle, there's this like excitement and fear about being small and kind of blending in, but there's this peace because you feel that you're held. And it's this
Yes.
interesting sensation that you can't, nothing else really gives that to you. And I so relate to the go, go, go and how we're socialized and brought up in different places of just having this agenda. And I agree that these people here calm you down. Like my Tico and Tika friends, people that are raised here, I'm like, wow, you know how to be present. And it's like, you
Yes.
know, Pura Vida isn't just a slogan, it's like in their DNA. It's who they are. It's
It's who
like
they are.
Pura is the close word to Purna, which is the Sanskrit word for full. So I just feel like there are all these full beings around here, and it gives me so much inspiration. And this place was the place that I learned how to slow down because I've been coming here the past 6 years, and it wasn't until COVID and everything kind of happened. I was like, all right, what's important? My health and nature. Let's go.
I love it.
And I made yeah, and I made the move, and I think that stillness is such a big practice for me because I am terrified of it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an interesting thing to talk about people who are visionaries and wellness people and people who curate things and teachers, because we are usually always teaching to ourselves and what we
Oh,
need. And
yeah.
like along the way, like, don't let us fool you. Like we're wise and shit, but we're preaching because we need these reminders. Like
It's so
I think
true.
I'm
I say to everyone, I'm
it's
like, I'm
like,
pretty much doing this masterclass for myself, but welcome to join in on what I'm thinking about in my mind. Like,
yeah, welcome to my show.
here it
It's
is.
not about us, but it's yeah. And so when I really strengthened my capacity for meditation through these programs that I'm learning, and in meditation is where I have found my high self, my shadow self, my little girl self, all of the parts of me. I'm doing a lot of parts work as well, these parts, and labeling them and seeing them and sitting in a different chair and working with these aspects of ourselves. This is how I'm maintaining God, what am I'm maintaining a human life. I'm not going to say it's perfect, I'm not going to say it's pleasant, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's rich and
Yeah.
it's authentic and it's me. And when I
Mm-hmm.
can stop shaming my anger and the parts that I've kept hidden from everyone for so long, it
Yeah.
feels like freedom. Like my body is like electric right now because of the truths that are happening for me, and just putting myself through these experiences of facing shit, just leaning in and giving myself permission to like say anger or sadness. Like, all right, what if you go curl into a ball and cry and make yourself go there? And time and place, right? If you're
Of
teaching
course.
like discernment for sure.
Yeah.
But when I get angry now, like I have a lot of rage, and I mean anger I think is like suppressed passion. So I like to say like, all right, how can I redirect this passion in a new way? And sometimes that means pulling over on the side of the road, screaming as loud as I can, coming home, punching some pillows, just going ape shit, and then it's gone. And then I move that out of my body so that I can actually feel it gone, versus suppressing this thing, allowing it to cannonball into this thing that sometimes gets stuck in our body for decades. And
Huge.
it's just like, it's so liberating to be doing the kind of work that I'm doing in my life, because I feel free. I feel that I'm aware of my shit, but also free.
Yes. And
Yeah.
this is a hugely potent place to be. And I am in the exact same position that you are in connection with this. Because I think that as we evolve and we've done a lot of the work, you know, like we're stepping in, we're adventuring within ourselves to find these crevices that we've held all these emotions in. Or, you know, I do a lot of past life work with a lot of people, because some of the stuff coming up right now isn't even this life, because the veils are so thin in the timeline that we're pulling from all these other lives, and it feels like it's here, but it's actually not. It's from all this other stuff that's been built up that needs to move so that you can step in and breathe and own, you know, the dimensions of the rage, and own, you know, the anger. Or for me, it's like my rebellion, and own that. Like last week, my mom says to me on a phone call, she's like, what's up with you and these nipple shots and all this sexual stuff that you're putting online now? I was like, Mom, apparently you're not watching with the eye of actually owning the power within me. That's what these photos represent. They don't represent me calling out for sex. And who the fuck cares if my nipples are online? Okay. Like, what the fuck? Who cares? No one's looking at that. I've not gotten any messages where guys are saying, dude, your nipples are fucking great because I could see them through your dress. Okay. People are going, wow, like the energy you're holding. And that is actually me. But for so long, I kept her contained because of these situations, like my mom, who I don't like, I love her, but I'm like, Mom, I don't really care what you have to say about my photos any longer, because for 39 years of my life, I was diminishing my light so that you wouldn't feel uncomfortable. So now you get the opportunity to deal with your shit if you want to, because I'm dealing with mine and this is who I am expressed. But it's like, the power in that, right? My mom won't ever listen to my podcast, but if you do, Mom, I say that with love. Okay. Maybe this one she'll listen to because I call her out, but it's all good. Anyway, she'll do whatever she wants to do with that if she does ever listen to this. But it's like one of those things that I think for so long, like you just said, I was a ballerina and I had to follow these rules. I was, in this religion and I had to follow these rules, and we were contained in our boxes. And for a while, some of us played well in our box and we're like, I participate in the box. And now as we maneuver through, it's like our heart is going, and we're being called to own all of us, not just the parts that we think are okay for people to see, all of the dimensions, all of the sadness, all of the rage, all of the anger, all of the joy, the bliss, the peace, the love, all of it, because we are whole as humans. There isn't a disconnect in that. And I know that you and I were chatting about that before I hit record, but I just love your sense on what that's like. You mentioned a little bit about it, but like, what is that showing up for you like right now? Because I feel there's so much power for people to feel that and to actually make a choice in their life to be this all inside of them, like we're at that precipice, I feel, in the collective.
I feel you so much. Wholeness. Yeah. One of my core wounds is being seen and chosen. And I have a fear of abandonment. I have a fear of not being good enough. And those are like deep within me. So to be speaking to worthiness, there's definitely this sense of me that's like, you're not worthy. What are you doing? You're not ready yet. But how often, like, when are we going to be ready?
Never.
Like that's the one thing of like, well, maybe when I get the perfect job, or when I make 6 figures, or when I have the, it's like, screw that. It's now. And, I'm reading the book, The Mountain Is You, 20,000 out of 10 recommend. And Brianna West talks about self-sabotage. And this is really helping me in lieu with my trainings and facilitation of our brain is hardwired to crave comfortability and safety. And now if we have lived 20, 30, 40, whatever years feeding it the same thing, where we feel safe in sadness, where we feel safe in depression, where we feel safe in just meh, our body's going to do that. We have this a capacity to hold what feels good. And if we get beyond that, our body and our mind are like, danger, danger, and try to bring us back here. Now, what can create sustainability in that space is freaking practice. Like when we're sensing that or feeling ourselves want to curl up or not do it or come back in, it's getting ourselves like, okay, maybe that's not the day, but keep getting exposure. If we're not exposing ourselves to the kind of feelings that we want, we ain't going to make it.
Yeah.
So every morning, not every morning, I'm going to call myself out of my bullshit. A lot of mornings when I do meditate.
You're like me. I went to tell my hairdresser yesterday and she says to me, do you do this every day? I was like, I'd love to tell you I do, but I fucking don't, because that would be like too regimented for me and I rebel against systems. But every so often, like that's what I'm saying.
Totally. And I think that we spend a lot of time, especially in this industry of like shadow work and child healing. And I think it's beautiful. And let's get in touch with our higher self. Let's get in touch with the versions of ourselves we want to be. And let's like close our eyes and like sense how that feels. Like, whether I know some people actually can't visualize, which is very fascinating. So that's been an interesting one with when I'm leading meditation. It's like, okay, where do you feel it in your body? Where's the sensation? And we could start there. But having this we all know what it feels like. I pray, I hope to feel safety and at peace. We've all experienced that at some time. We've all experienced maybe this idea of feeling whole, of feeling bold, of feeling free. Bring yourself back to that moment. That's what I do in my meditations now is, all right, I see myself with the property I'm desiring. I see my house. I see the skin, like I see my skin just getting blown with wind. I'm sensing that I'm getting on my motorcycle and riding down to the beach and I have this surf day. I have my perfect day planned out. I could tell you what I eat. I could tell you who I see. I could
Love
tell
it.
you everything because that's what I'm bringing in. And I'm triggered with the word manifesting because
Mm.
it's probably my work ethic of like, if you're not fucking working hard, you don't deserve shit. Which my coach called me out on last night. She's like, Alana, once you like stop trying, everything's gonna happen. I'm like, don't even tell me that.
Yeah.
So
I love your coach. I don't even know her. Well, maybe
oh
I do, but
Jesus. So yeah, it's just this like, let's start practicing being where we want to be versus like
yeah.
staying comfortable in what's not worked. And I've called myself out on that big time this year. This is a really new epiphany of like, oh shit, I've been talking about what doesn't work for how long now? Like, let's talk
Mhm.
about what works, even like in little
Yes.
conversations. Like, how do we talk to each other at the grocery store? Friends, are you bitching about the same shit you've been bitching about for years? Or can we like heighten our consciousness and our awareness by like, hey, what's real for you right now? Like, what are you struggling with? What are the things? There's a time and place. Sometimes we want to zone out, but I think that's what we need to elevate each other is to get curious and to ask better questions and not just flop to the same whatever. That's what I'm desiring. I'm asking more of myself and I'm asking more of my friendships and connections because I want to evolve. I'm choosing to evolve. And that means sometimes letting go of people or things or places that are holding me in the same me that I'm no longer.
Mm.
So
That
yeah.
was that was super powerful, and I'm with you in this landscape. You can't. I really feel we get to choose, and I'm way out there. I play out in the ethers, like I channel deities, I speak light language, I do all these like crazy non-human things that are actually connected into wholeness within us. And the message on the street right now is that the timelines are collapsing, which means that we get to choose the life we really desire to live and be in. And if we make that choice and step into that choice, some of these things are going to be dismantled, meaning relationships will no longer be able to be held in the new energy, thought processes, belief systems, actions we take, how we show up in our body. Our body may be calling for different avenues of release instead of it being the tactile way we always did it. And just like you said about safety, I think it's fucking some people up really, because we can't fathom that we don't have to work hard to get the life that we desire. We just have to align in it and trust it and believe it and become it, even though we already are it. I use that word though kind of to describe what is happening, because we just have to remember. That's really the key potency, is remembering, and then connecting from all the things that are no longer serving this version of who we actually really are. But it takes a bit of grit. It's going to take some shifting. It's going to take us dismantling this mind that's been controlling our energy for all these years and drop back into where the actual potency is within the heart, right? And allowing ourselves to trust that, which is the hardest part because we can't see it until it's been created, but we're being directed to trust. And it's almost like God, like we don't see God, but then God produces something that we're like, oh my God, that's so God, like the waterfalls and the beauty that we get to be in every day. But it's like there's no tactile God unless you go channel him and he drops in. He's like, I'm God. I'm like, dude, what's been up, man? Like, where have you been? where have you been hiding? No, I'm just joking.
You
But
can,
you know what I'm
bro.
saying? Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like all of this. So it's like I appreciate you bringing this up because I think it's such an important landscape for us to discuss, because I'm like, there's so many people that are still scared and they're really in fear of this all. So I know that probably floated through your world, even when you got into that space of your first yoga class to taking action there to now where you're at, like stepping up and talking about your rage and anger and actually holding a space for your wholeness inside of you. Like, where was that fear for you and how did you see yourself moving through it? Because I think that there's some potency there that someone needs to hear from you today for sure.
Thank you. Oof. Permission. Now I'm like getting permission slip. It's just I think I've gotten a lot of really great permission slips over the past couple of years. I can say, oh, it's Sean Corn, it's Amy Poehler, it's like all these teachers, and then I'm remembering that it's me. And in spirit of what you're saying as well, is like, I'm allowing myself to become fully me. And in order to be fully me, I have to embrace parts of me that I don't like. And right now I am working relentlessly on releasing this like good and bad thing, right and wrong thing. The good, yeah, it's so deep in me of anger is bad, sadness is bad. And I'm sure we are similar in the generations of we weren't talked about. The feelings weren't talked about. And like my parents did, bless them. I relate to a lot of your mom stuff too, of like, they did the best they could with what they knew. And I like to pretend, I like to pretend that that is true for everyone. And I like to say that, you know, I don't know if I fully agree with it, but I'm gonna just honor that. And it took me getting so sick of my shit, Colleen. Like it took me, how many times we've had those breakdowns, whether it be toxic relationships, whether it be panic attacks, whether it be doing the same thing 50 times and it like burning yourself out. And you're like, am I ever going to change? Am I ever going to choose myself more than this fear or this doubt or this pain? And I got to a place where I had to choose me. And I knew at a core level that no one was going to save me. And it takes a pretty shaky rock bottom to get to that place. And I've also dabbled in plant medicines. That's also helped me touch upon places I've never thought possible. But that also was my introduction to death and being okay with that, with dying and that letting go of my physical identity. Segue, that could be a whole other story. But for me, it was just becoming honest and taking accountability. And I lived in victimhood for most of my life. I can point fingers at everyone about why I'm suffering. And then I had this moment of, it's me. It's like, what's the common denominator in all of it is me. And it takes like some kind of balls to admit that, you know, like radical accountability and responsibility isn't fucking easy. Blaming everyone else for your misery is way more comfortable. For me, I don't know, maybe some people don't agree, but to take accountability and to like see someone and say like, hey, I'm wrong, I'm sorry, or like give that kind of like deep, heartfelt accountability for things. I'm seeing others, but really like for ourselves. Like, when's the last time you could look at yourself and be like, hey, I love you, I forgive you? Like, we don't really do that. And I'm working through forgiving myself on a lot of things. And the years of perfection and gripping and control and all the ways that protected me. I don't want to shame that. I needed that. I love my suffering and the pain and things that I've gone through, because now I get to talk about them from a scar versus a wound. Like I only believe in teaching from that place of like, okay, I have some time, I have some space, and I'm going to share my idea of you. If I'm still squirming in the freaking wound, then it's like, that's just integrity segue. But I do think that radical accountability and just taking ownership that I am the choreographer of my life and no one's going to save me. It's a hard fucking truth. No one's going to save you, not your person, not your not anyone but yourself. And so if I hate me, doomed. So I got to not hate me, because this is what I've got here in this incarnation. And why not help people out of pain into passion, into pleasure? Because I know what it's like to not feel that. So now I feel that that's my mission, is to be as raw and vulnerable and open with it, so that people know they're not alone, and that it's okay to feel what you feel, and that we're not our feelings, that we can be so much more beyond that.
Like, I don't even know how to respond, because all of this is so like aligned. And I'm like, and my journey through all of this too, it was like December 2020 that I finally understood what it meant to take personal responsibility for my life and to actually dismantle all of the fucking illusions that were around me that were that I allowed to create this distortion that I thought it was okay to live this life of like surface level and relying on all these other people and codependency and all the things where it was like, you suck because you suck. You've chosen all of this, every single like thing that has happened in your world. And I say that graphically on purpose because that was me at that time, that I needed to feel that and actually speak to myself that way, to be like, every single thing that's happened in your world is because you created it to be at this exact moment of time. You didn't take responsibility. You hid from all the things. You ran away from all of it. Right. And it's the hardest pill to swallow, I think, because we actually have to admit that every single thing that's happened in our world is because we created it, and we are the creators of our reality. So if that is true, now you look at it and go, well, what do I really want? You know, I had a hard time at the beginning talking about pleasure because most of the time I linked it to sexuality, which, yeah, it does play out in sexuality, but it's also about the juiciness of life, because most of us don't think of life as pleasurable because most of us are just getting by in life or trying to become in life or aiming for something else instead of dropping into the actual juiciness of the day, of the connection of us being together right here, right now, and it being juicified in conversation, or like the walk I'm going to take later on the beach, or, you know, this dynamic of like, that is pleasure that fuels my body to be able to step in. And I'm like, I want more of that in my world. I want more love and joy and peace and laughter. I want to fucking laugh my ass off all the goddamn time, even if we're in a serious yoga class. You know, like if you put Laura and I beside each other, it's like there's no doubt that somewhere in the class I'm going to be laughing at her or she's going to be laughing at me, and it won't matter. She just noticed the other day that and you know, when you guys go like hop or jump step to the front of the mat to go into like, you know, whatever it is, bending over, whatever, I fucking crawl every time. I crawl to the top of the mat. And she just noticed it the other day. She's like, I saw you crawling. I was like, dude, I crawl every time. It doesn't even matter. You know? I was like, so when she noticed, she started laughing at me. I go, every single time I crawl. Now you're going to see me crawling. It's going to be really funny.
Love it.
But that's like, that's the thing. And I love the potency of that personal responsibility, and it dismantles a lot of stuff. It takes away that victim energy. It allows us to see, and now we can actually make proactive choices to change instead of us waiting on others. Right. Yeah. So cool. So cool. I know you and I could jam, riff, whatever we want to fucking call it, for 500 million years. I know that we could, because I know that there's so much so many stories that we could share and that could serve someone listening. But I want you to just kind of share from your heart center, like, what are you really feeling at this moment to really speak into the world? And yeah, I just feel like that's what I desire to hold in this moment of time, we'll say.
What's coming through is it's okay to take your time. And I think that I've rushed and powered my way through my life for as long as I can remember. And I'm brought to these moments of injury or slowing down because of a great reminder of taking the time. Like, good things take time. And I think that when we see things like yoga or wellness practices or things we want, we just want it now. And that's because we've been in this scrolling society, these dopamine hits, like this ethic of working hard and working for a long time to get what we want. That's not really talked about anymore. It's kind of a lost art that, like, you're a teacher and then you're teacher, like, you know, this grit and this transition of becoming a student and getting good and then self-mastery. And so it's just, that seems like that's what needs to be said to the whole of being okay. Don't be afraid to take your time, and that there's enough for everyone. Like, that's the thing that really took me a long time to understand, especially with every other person here being a yoga teacher, and everyone's you know, like, we all have our own medicine, and thank God I'm not for everyone. Like, that was an older than 30s lesson of, I don't want to be for everyone. I do not want to be liked by everyone. Like, dear God, that sounds exhausting. So if someone doesn't resonate with me, I'm like, sick, here are 5 other teachers who you might resonate with. And that just comes from a place of like, it's not about me. And when I first came to this wellness practice like it is, but it's not. And I'm to be of service. Like that's what I'm here to do, is to like share from experience. And people take themselves so seriously. People think people care so much, and they really don't. And so I think slowing down and just radical like welcoming in of who you are and what you want to do, and it's okay if it takes longer than you expect, because it's not one blink of an eye and your whole life's changing. It's in the small moments, and we can always restart and begin again. So I think that yeah, the vibe of slowing down and being intentional with time and practices.
Yeah. And this is like, and this is where we actually call it the work, I think, you know, like, is actually in these moments of recalibrating almost our energetic field and stepping back into the space of allowing ourselves to take space, allowing ourselves to breathe, allowing ourselves to, in the middle of the day, go for a walk when you should be doing other things, all the fucking shoulds that we've been ingrained in, right? You know, and it's like, that's where the actual work actually happens, which makes all the other work we think is work become easier and more targeted and more aligned, where, you know, we're chasing the dollar a lot in North America to just sustain a lifestyle that most of us don't even really want, because we're in these environments that say we have to. And where Costa Rica and what showed up for me was like, we were almost forced to slow down. Like when the internet goes out or the power is out and you don't have an option but to be, because you can't even, some people can't even get out of their houses with the gates that are electronic because they don't have power. They're forced into this environment of actually listening. And I know that 2020 and all the dynamics of that happened as well, which positioned for people, but it was harder, I think, in North America than it is here. Like we're gifted it. We get up with the sun because the sun wakes us up, and we're circadian rhythms. Like the first day I got here, I was like, why am I up at 5 o'clock in the morning right away? Like I didn't even take time to adjust. My body went, oh yeah, we get up with the sun now. And I was like, what is this? You know, like, and just the difference of that pulse. So I love and appreciate that you brought in the concept of like, take your time, follow your own flow. Like my rhythm isn't the rhythm of someone else's, and really honor that space for yourself to. Now, don't procrastinate on it, because some of us do that and some of us use that as an excuse, which is not, but you know the difference because you're going to feel it. But yeah, so powerful. So powerful. What do you got going on these days? Like where we're obviously going to share some social links and stuff in the show notes and things like that, but you've got some cool things happening in all different ways, so I'd love for you to just talk about them.
Yeah, I love talking about them because then you're just putting the energy out there. Well, I'm living in Costa Rica, obvio. I teach weekly classes at the Shala. That's beautiful communities. I think community is just good for people in general. So even if you haven't done community things in a while, go do community things. I host retreats. I started a retreat business in 2020, perfect timing with COVID, but I found that, you know, that calling to hold that sacred space for people to reconnect to themselves and other people was super potent, especially in 2020, whenever the world opened back up ish.
It shut down, opened
Yeah.
up. If you live in Canada, it still feels like it's closed. We don't have to go there though. You know?
Yeah. But now I'd like to, you know, I will wear the bag of transformational coach, and I think that that is something that is a new layer that I'm adding on, which is not, you know, I used to hear that term and be like, oh, okay, but in the way of transforming your pain, your anger, your sadness, your grief into something that you can use, and something that's like regenerative, and something that keep going and like work your inner systems in healthy ways. And I'm really passionate about that, about bringing this kind of transformation into experiences which allow people to flourish, to have reckoning, have this moment of like, oh shit, it's been a lot, and then give tools that have helped my becoming and learning how to navigate our inner landscape with what we do have in our external world, like nature, other human beings, learning how to authentically create, like connect, create all of these things, which we've been pulled out of, I think, since we were children. So a lot of my work is holding these, somewhat deep diving soul level experiences, but also remembering how to play. That's something, if you do know me, and I'm very much a lovey, light little butterfly that's bopping around. And I do so love being a child at heart and doing things like ecstatic dance and, painting my face with mud and, walking backwards and crawling back, just doing weird shit that we don't normally do because we're adults. I also believe in play being a huge factor in how we need to continue to stay sane in this world. I work, what else do I do? I am, doing coaching. So just via voice versus movement practices, but I'm also working on a program called Core Work, which is going to embrace movement, somatic, hypnotherapy, and coaching sessions. That'll be a container that has a retreat alongside. This is the first time I'm talking about it out loud.
Wow, here we go. This is great.
Yes, girl, this is 2024 launching. So yeah, I have a lot of great things on the horizon. I do feel that in person is so good because nothing beats it. But also we have this beautiful tool of technology, and I've been a part of so many incredible communities online that it's all right, I'm ready. I've been in a pretty cocoon vibe the past couple of years, and I'm learning and I've been taking it in, and now I'm ready to step into it and share it and help in the way that I can.
I love this. And I think there's a lot of us that are feeling that, butterfly energy now that we've been taking the time, you've been doing the work, you've been integrating your own stuff, we've gone within. And now it's I feel 2024 for a lot of people is going to be this beautiful, expansive energy. But I'm also going to encourage people that if you're not feeling that it's time for us to kind of move in through some of those roots, because life is that possibility. So this is amazing. So I'm obviously going to get all your links from you, and we'll make sure that people can connect, especially on Instagram, and the beautiful photos that you're sharing now too. Hannah, who was both of our photographer, and she's so sweet too, where she's yeah, I'm kind of sort of doing this. And then I saw her photos of you and I went, sort of doing this? Are you kidding me? This is her expression. So just your content and the way you communicate into the world too is such an imprint as well. So I'm going to highly encourage everyone, go and follow you on Instagram just to even feel in the energy that you're creating and the expression that you have online, because sometimes it's that exact thing that we just need at the moment to feel that connection, to understand that we're not alone, to be with a community, like you said, whether it's individuals or together, moving through an energy field. So yeah, this is so cool. I love it.
Yeah.
So awesome. Okay. So I know we're kind of a little bit tight on time because I could talk to you forever, but where do you want to leave people? What's the last thought on your mind that says this will complete this execution of this moment?
We're already here. I think so many of us think that we're always trying to go somewhere that we're not. And so as this is an end, it's also in a beginning. And I think that it's beautiful to just have these moments or see where the words lead you and what you're feeling and experiencing, and just knowing you're here and trusting that what you're working is already coming. So that would be the last little nugget. That feels good.
Yeah, it does feel good. I love it. Thank you for taking the time out of your surf schedule to be here today. And it's low tide, by the way, guys, when we're recording. So
It's low tide, it's fine.
Yeah, are you gonna go do sunset surf? Yeah, probably. Yeah, I love that. And I look forward to actually learning how to surf. I've never been on a board, and I want to find expression that way. So I look forward to even just watching you do that one time. I'm gonna have to come to the beach and just experience it.
Come through.
Yeah, I'd love it. But for all the listeners, guys, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. And like I always say, if something sticks into your field with this, share this out on social media, help us spread the word, send it to a friend who you feel could be aligned in it, because the mission in the collective is all of us rising together and moving through this. And it takes all of us to kind of make this mission happen. So just encouraging you guys to do that. And we'll see you guys all in the next episode. Thank you so much again. So what do you have to say about this is all I'm going to say to you. What a powerful episode it was. And I agree with you. Her energy, firstly of all, like Alana's energy is just so beautiful, but also too, the nuggets that she dropped. There was so much meat. If you actually went back into that podcast and wrote notes, you would have so many dynamics of movement that we worked through inside of that hour we were together. It wasn't even an hour, just under an hour we were together, right? And all I'm going to do, guys, is encourage you. If you feel called to come to a retreat with her, to, follow her on Instagram, I'm going to encourage you guys to do that. I'm going to also encourage you guys, like I said at the end of the podcast, help us share this out. Tag us on Instagram. We'll share it out. We want people to feel this, to know this, to be in this experience. There's probably someone in your life that is right now at this moment that could use any of the information that Alana dropped, that we discussed, that we moved through together. And I encourage you guys all the time. And also, if you've never given us a review, I'm going to ask that you do that as well, whether that's in Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this, even in YouTube, if you want to make a comment on the video, whatever that looks like or feels like for you, just because the word and people's access to this is necessary for us to continue to move this light into the world. And I think all the conversations I'm having this season in all the dimensions that they are, because there's so much movement within our conversations. The guests moving through into this collective are like, the conversations we're having are super juicy. And I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for this platform. I'm grateful for you guys being here and just all in life. So just wanted to say that and thank you. And we'll see you guys all again in the next episode.